Hey everyone!
How's it going, folks?
So, once again, we're back, getting dusty.
Got our last shaft alley stringer glued together yesterday.
Yeah, that feels good.
Yes. So, a quick trim, drop it down, double check the fit, it's real close. Just like the other ones, we need to take a little bit off the top, but I think we can put this one in place and we'll get it marked out and then just bring it back up here and rip it with aluminum fence and just be a lot easier in setting it up and cutting it in place like we did last time. This one will be close enough that we shouldn't have much trouble getting it positioned just right. So very excited to get that done and get it tabbed in, and then I think there's just a few little things to tidy up down there, and we're gonna be ready to strike some lines and lug a bunch of concrete down here.
That'll be good.
Yeah, get that poured, get that leveled out, and then we're moving on with this project. So yeah, very happy.
So, aside from the stringer over there, we've been dealing with persistent kind of weepy leak down here on the inside of our stringer. Just kind of pools water there. We did manage to get the stringer in without any water hassling us, which is nice.
Yeah, it's not much, maybe like
probably like a cup every
or two.
If
every
it depends
few
on
days.
if it's raining or not.
Yeah, it's not much, but
after it does rain, it does kind of weep out of there for like the next few days or something.
yeah. So one spot when we were doing this deck we didn't get to was this area right here. It didn't look too bad, so we just kind of let it fly. But thinking that this is probably the cause. We got some cracking in here, so most likely it's getting in right in here. That doesn't look bad. But there is a scupper up forward outside of our enclosure too that is cracked, where the deck is cracked away from the hull, and so it could be a combination of that and these other ones. It's not much, but it's enough to be annoying. And it's a nice day, so we're gonna go ahead and carve that out up there, get it cleaned up, and get some putty and glass over it.
Yeah.
See if we can get this nipped in the bud.
Yeah. Well, anyway, something that we have to do ahead of time to kind of dry out down there before we seal it up. So get this knocked out. That'll give it a chance to somewhat dry anyway. At least it'll maybe quit weeping through and dry out a bit. So
it's a little bit hard to see because I got some almond blush here, I guess, whatever you want to call it, just where this got wet. But this is the stuff that we already went over. This is a single layer of matte. Mom loves it when I use a knife as a... She'll appreciate this. Anyway, so this is where we've already repaired this crack, and we filleted the corner right here and just gone over it with a single layer of matte, and just kind of wanted to show you, like this original one, if you tap that, you can actually hear it's a little bit hollow sounding. So for whatever reason, this didn't bond well. I don't know if it was a prep job or what. I mean, who knows what the circumstances were. When it was laid up, how it was laid up, the temperatures, humidity, etc., etc. But at any rate, it did not bond well. So when you put new fiberglass on old fiberglass, you're never going to have a chemical bond like when you originally lay up a laminate. When you do a laminate, you have a chemical bond in between layers, and as long as your next layer goes down on the laminate before, and that's still green or it hasn't fully cured, you're going to get a chemical bond. That's the case of this stuff. It still looks green. Eventually the color will change on all of this fiberglass, and it'll start to look more tan like this. And so when you have a secondary bond after your original laminate is cured out, you're going to just get a mechanical bond. You won't get a chemical bond, but it should still be a good bond. So right here you can see kind of where the mat comes in, and if you scrape on that, I mean, you can get under it eventually, but it's pretty well on there, you know. And that's kind of why you want to use chop strand mat too, is because it'll conform really well to irregularities and it'll get a good initial bond. But that's what it should look like. I mean, you could spend some time, you could get that stuff off of there and scrape it off, but it doesn't come off easy. See how it just kind of comes off in small chunks like that. So that's why you go in with chop strand first, and that gives it a good initial bond on your old fiberglass, and then you come back in with your reinforcing layers, your 2408 of, you know, 090 and your 45s. But now if you look at this, I think this was, I don't even know, was there mat underneath there? I forget.
I don't think there was mat.
This is a layer of roving right here. This is a layer of heavy roving, and it kind of looks like it went in dry to me. And I'm wondering if it was not enough resin and it was resin starved, because it looks, the color is off. You can see the difference in the colors between these two. And that's more what a dry layup would look like. But, you know, I mean, look at that. There's really nothing there. I'll break my knife doing that, but yeah, you can see how that just pulls right away with very little effort. And this stuff, on the other hand, where we already went in there, I mean, I'm just hitting individual fibers and kind of peeling them off. I can get underneath there if I really try and I get it started, but look at how it just kind of cracks out and fractures and stops. That's what a guy wants.
Yep.
So
you
we're very confident.
Chunk peeling off like that with no effort.
Yeah, you don't want separation of the layers like that. But so this is why we're confident that our work is fine, and that's also why we're using polyester resin. A lot of people have asked why we don't use epoxy. Well, epoxy definitely is a superior bond when you're going down on old fiberglass. You can put epoxy on fiberglass, polyester resin, but you can't do it vice versa. Epoxy is great. It's super strong. It does actually get more of a chemical bond than a mechanical when you're putting it on an old substrate, but the problem with epoxy is that it's a lot more time consuming to put on. There's parameters you have to work within. If it cures, it gets an almond blush, very similar to what we see right here. You have to go in there, you have to wash that off with water, you have to prep it, you have to rekey it. All of that takes a lot of time. Quite frankly, it's just a lot more expensive. I think that we'd probably be looking at double the price of the resin. Polyester resin is nice because you can control the curing process and the catalyst. If you have an emergency repair, you can mix that stuff up hot and you can literally patch a hole in 20 minutes with fiberglass with polyester resin. You mix it hot, you can slap it on there, it's gonna kick right away. With epoxy, you'd never be able to do that, especially in Alaska. And so, say for instance, if you damaged your boat somewhere, you need to get an emergency patch on it, you can go dry, you get it wiped down, you get it dry enough, you mix a hot batch of polyester and slap it on there, that stuff is set in no time at all. And you can get back to where you need to make the proper repairs. So those are considerations that are very important to look at when you're doing this type of thing. For us, it's mainly time and cost.
Yep. Each job or each application has its certain uses,
yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
So, now that we have this started, we'll bust out a pry bar and peel that off. It should come off just like the rest of them did.
Yep.
And we'll get in there, we'll clean this crack out, get this area tightened up, and I think that'll be it for our persistent drip on that side.
And no worries about that damage that Dad just caused with a knife.
Oh.
We're going over that with several more layers.
Yeah, we'll just come back here. This will need to get cleaned up real quick, and then we'll just tie in our next layer of mat there. And yeah, that's nothing there. So that was just kind of an example between the two. You can even see where we went onto that old stuff right there. And how much better that's sticking right there.
Yeah, it's weird. We'll figure it out someday maybe. We have our theories. Figure just
I think that
dry layup, or it was wet, or something weird. But
something weird. Yes, we're not professional fiberglassers, but we've been around it long enough and we've used it enough, and all the work that we've done on the fishtail has been on there long enough now that it's basically proved itself that the technique and the methods were solid. We haven't had any issues of delamination or any problems to speak of. If you look at the deck where we tied everything into the old stuff, we haven't had any issues, zero problems. So we know that our techniques are sound and the process was correct. And we're just applying that on here. Part will just have to get ground up.
We use the chisel, I think, just to keep it carry on.
A little old stuff right there, I guess, where I probably just ground it off.
Yep. It's just kind of wedged in, I think, yeah.
So stop it.
The multi-tool
Die grinder. We have our die grinder now.
Yeah. Okay. More power! And a hammer.
Chisel that baby. See, I can see old gel coat underneath of there.
Yeah.
So, that stuff wasn't prepped right. You need to grind off that old gel coat and stuff to really get down to the laminate. That's where you want to tie things into. That's my opinion. Anytime I've gone over gel coat, it just tears right off. It'll take the gel coat with it. There we go.
What is that?
Hey, hidden feature. Same story. You can almost see how it almost looks like it came out of a mold. It's got the texture and everything. I almost think that this had a wax layer on it still. They didn't prep the surface correctly. It almost looks like, you know, like if that had mold release on it, it's pretty much what it did.
You can see the staining here where water had been leaching into that seam all the years too.
So there's probably like a, well, all of this is just really resin rich in there too.
Yep.
And that ain't no bond. That stuff just breaks right out.
Yeah.
Right there. That's all it takes.
Yep.
So we'll just do the same thing as back there. We'll just throw down a layer of mat. That's gonna make it waterproof. And then of course we're gonna come back in and we'll probably grind that back a little bit more and we'll lay up with some reinforcing fabric, a couple of layers of I don't know, 2408 or whatever. We'll build that up and that'll give it some strength and prevent it from cracking out.
Yeah, you especially want to build your deck joint rigid because you're transferring all that strength to your deck, to your bulwarks.
Yeah.
You don't, these flex around.
They do.
From
even on well-built boats,
yeah,
you'll get some flex right there. What happens is you tend to, when you're tied up to a tender or something, if you have a buoy up too high, or even just your lines will transfer a lot of load into your bulwarks, because that's usually where your
hawse hole is.
Your hawse hole is, and a cleat, and so that'll transfer a lot of force into that and cause them to flex, and that's where it's going to start to break out, is on that seam. You get moisture in there, you get water in there, and it just creates a spot for it just to start to work its way in. And depending on the hull type, you know, plywood loves to absorb water, and it'll just run right through those layers. It'll just follow it like a road. Balsa core, same thing. It'll get in there and it'll just start to absorb that and rot your boat from the inside out. We're lucky that this deck is still in good shape. It's strong right now, and this is going to give it a little bit of life. And we intend to replace all this stuff sooner than later.
Yeah, the deck's not spongy, so we got that going for us.
Yeah, if you go look at some of the older boats in the fleet that haven't been worked on yet, you'll find that a lot. You'll step on them, you can just feel the deck, you know, sponge underneath you. You'll see the masts. The mast step is always a problem. It's always an issue. You'll see masts dropping an inch into the deck. Not good at all.
Nope.
At least here we still have good wood underneath our feet. And it was a good build.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't skimp on the wood. It's nearly, well, it's a little over an inch thick, inch and a quarter thick, right?
Yeah, a layer of 3/4 and 5/8.
Yeah, so an inch and a quarter with the fiberglass laminate in between. A couple layers of mat by the looks of it. Maybe one layer. Probably two. Yeah, so they actually, you know, they put some material into the deck, and so it's good and solid yet.
Yep. So we'll guess continue cleaning this up and get it patched up.
Yeah,
and that'll be nice.
Yeah. What do we want to do? Get this fit first and get it glued in, and then come back to this stuff up here?
Yeah, maybe that'd be good.
I do want that stringer in.
Yeah. Should be fine. I don't think it's supposed to rain today, so.
Yeah. Well, this won't take too long anyways. It's just a small area.
Yeah. Dad's been working down the fish hold here, getting the stringer fit up. I think he's just about ready too. He just wiped it down with acetone.
I can just use that vacuum real quick, I guess, to get this dust out of the crack here, and yeah. So I'm gonna get this in place, and then we're just probably gonna, I think we'll drill our hole back in that forward bulkhead, and we can get our line back in here, and then we can use that as a reference.
So a little vacuum action.
Yeah, I got a whole bunch of dust and
Mm-hmm.
grime down here. I'll just end up picking it up with the roller, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. All right. We shall proceed.
Well, this is the moment we've been waiting for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Dropping this last piece in. Got it all slathered down with putty here. Hopefully there's a fair amount of squeeze out. The fit wasn't quite as good as I would have liked on here. It'll be good though. I think should have a fair amount of squeeze out. Just kind of built it up. Big heavy layer like we did the other ones, and we'll drop it into place and see here.
Feel me down here. Pew.
Yeah, it's gross.
All right. It's like a jungle gym in here. Mm-hmm.
Okay, hold on. Oh.
You like? All right. And into place. And it's squishy now. Welcome. Yeah, just like hold right there for a moment. You kind of come back my way. Now this one gets shoved in here, but not yet. Got to get that clamped right there first. Okay, and you got that one there, so I'll put this one in here next. Stomp it down. That's going to get most of the bow out of this one. And then it should be about the same as the other, I think. Close up that gap some. Maybe I have it up here a little bit more.
Wire must have had that more.
How's it look?
Looks good.
Good enough?
Yep. Little extra putty, but hey, it's fine.
Yep, so,
It looks good.
got some pretty good squeeze out on this side. Was actually pretty tight all the way down.
Yeah, I see that you got
area.
a bit of squeeze out there.
Yeah, and part of this is actually due to this bow right here. If this bow wasn't in this, it'd be a little bit tighter. So for the most part,
up there, just a little gap down here.
this little area there.
But I think it looks worse than it actually is, just because the.
Some of this, I trimmed this one wrong too. That foam on that one.
Yep.
Fine.
So now that's just squeezing in that putty into that crack, kind of get rid of as much void as you can. You path for water to potentially find and follow, but it's all waterproof anyway, so. It's all good. Well, soon enough, we'll be pulling this dang shaft out of here.
Yeah.
Sooner than later.
I gotta make a tool, so
Yeah.
you'll be seeing that in an upcoming video. It might interest a few people. Got our bits and parts and pieces for it all shipped in, so little home project. Maybe we'll start on that soon. I need to start on that soon.
Yep.
Interesting little tool. We got some other things to figure out, in particular these bearings. So a little hard to demonstrate what's going on with this right here, but For a lot of folks that don't know what different types of bearings are, pre-ball bearings and roller bearings, everything use Babbitt bearings, and it's basically a lead or a tin lead alloy that is poured into this casting. And if you look closely, well, no, you can't. Well, you can kind of see it on the edge right here. It's all dirty. You'll see the difference in the
rust
color
right there, and then more of a silvery color there.
Dull lead.
Yeah.
So that's the Babbitt bearing. It's about a 1/4 inch thick right there, and there's actually a cavity in here. And what that does is it's a soft metal that is actually fairly slippery. And with the addition of oil is what you're supposed to use. Guys use grease on them on boats, so it doesn't wash out as easy. But with the addition of grease being pumped in here or oil lubrication, it creates a very smooth surface for your shaft to rotate in. And the cool thing about Babbitt bearings is if they start to fail, you won't damage your shaft because it's a very soft material. You can actually just melt it with a regular torch, like a propane or butane torch. It's essentially the melting point of lead, more or less, 600 to 800 degrees, I suppose, somewhere in there. And it's actually a casting that you can recast yourself. You don't have to send these off to anybody. And so we're exploring the possibility of replacing these with roller bearings, with split roller bearings. I need to get some dimensions, and number one, make sure that they're gonna clear. This one's fine right here, but the housing is about 1 inch taller. And so I know that we're okay back here. The forward one, I don't know, it's gonna be close. It was kind of an after the thought type thing, and we're trying to keep the shaft alley as low as possible. So we're gonna have to see about that. But regardless, we're going to design the bearing blocks with the intention of eventually retrofitting it to split roller bearings. And so they're a little bit taller, like I say, so we'll make sure that we put the bearing block low enough that we can accommodate those later without having to come in here and do a bunch of work. Yeah, so it'll just be a simple thing of removing some shims and dropping the new one in. The form factor is more or less the same. A guy might have to, I think they might have 2 bolts, so we might have to modify that, or maybe we'll just work it into our initial design. We'll see. Mm-hmm. If the cost isn't super prohibitive and we can get them here within a timely fashion, then we'll retrofit it right now. And if they're pretty expensive, then we'll come back and do it later. I'm expecting them to be at least $1,000 each, so I mean they're not exactly cheap.
Yeah,
who knows? They might be $2,000 each.
Another one of those cases of future planning, future-proofing your work.
Yeah, it's something that is easy to do now to accommodate it later, and then we can modify it later. And a lot of times you can find things like that, new used, new stock, new old stock, I guess, like on somebody's shelf somewhere, and save some money. So that's something that we'll be looking into doing right there.
Alright, so we just got some fiber filler here. This is what we're using from the fiber lay. Got a little scale going by weight. Tear it out. This is what it looks like out of the can. We'll go for 250 grams. 261. And the recommended mixture is 1%. So 261 grams, so 2.61 gram of catalyst. Give it a stir. Mix thoroughly. Probably about a minute of stirring. You'll be able to tell once it gets to like a green color. When the chemical reaction is taking place, switches color to green, and then after maybe 5 more minutes, it'll go to more of an amber color. Scrape the sides of your cup good. There you can see it's kind of changed to more of a turquoise, greenish.
We're going to create a bit of a sump right here. I just got a piece kind of cut here, so I'll just show you, I guess. So this will get dropped into here. It's just kind of a rough approximation. And yeah, and concrete will get poured up about to this lip, and then all of the concrete is going to get covered with a nice layer of fiberglass to create a waterproof pan in here. This edge will get wrapped. What we'll have left is a sump right here. Gonna build it up with some fabric, probably a 1/4 inch thick or so. Tab it up against this forward bulkhead, tab it up against this back one, and then this will create a spot for our suction line for our pump to go down in here. And all the water will just collect down here, and when you pump it out, any water remaining up here will just run down into there and get evacuated. Before, the concrete was just flat and the pipe came down, and so you always kind of had probably a 1/2 inch or 3/4 inch of standing water in the whole shaft alley, just because it didn't have anywhere to go and pool and collect to get pumped out. So
yeah, get air into the line and then lose its prime.
Yep,
so
exactly. So it'll just make everything a lot nicer, a lot cleaner. It'll keep a dryer back in here. Now I'm just going to start with a couple layers of mat to get a good bond here, and then I'll throw down some 090, some 2408, 24 ounce cloth, and we'll build it up a little bit. So that's my plan.
nice.
Yeah, everything's looking good down here.
Yeah, pretty much got it all hammered in over here. I just did one piece. Looks good. Should be good and waterproof. We need to put one more layer against the bulkhead there, and then some matting to finish it off. So not quite done yet. So I just finished tabbing out the rest of the stringer on the inside here. Swath right there, looks pretty good. There's just this little chunk right here on the back side, 20 inches, and a tiny little chunk on the forward corner upright over there.
Just trying to get to the point here where we can get serious about putting some concrete in here, and really this is it. The sump needs to be kind of put in place. That tabbing is finished up now, so we're good there. These seams are not too big of a deal because I don't think that concrete's going to go that high anyways.
Yeah, probably not.
And so
we're planning on putting plastic over it too to keep the concrete splatter off our glass.
Yeah, we'll tape plastic along here when we pour it, because we're going to be still tabbing into all of this stuff. You know, from the concrete, the fiberglass pan that we'll put on the concrete. So we want to minimize all of that mess and clean up later. Getting this concrete down is going to be super nice because I'm so sick of this rough stuff. My ankles hurt. I probably stepped in that hole by the ladder 100 times.
That one there.
Today.
That was our, yeah, today alone.
My knee pads are shredded now from this rough stuff. I can't wait to say goodbye.
It's not comfortable, that's for sure.
No, it's not. So, yeah, it's gonna be good to get that on here and have a nice flat surface and be getting out of this area.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Yeah, for sure. Alright, so we're up here working on the scuppers here. Cut that strip out of the laminated glass. We were gonna make this our stopping point like we did on the other side, but upon closer examination, this is about a 1-inch thick chunk of wood. I'm guessing that it's just like a rough cut chunk of lumber, and they just stuck it on here and glassed it up to where the glass butted up here to the bottom of the cap rail. That, along with all these penetrations, I'm imagining that chunk of wood in there is quite waterlogged. And then, to top it off, these scuppers here are not very well glassed in. This is raw wood right there. Guess it's just one of those things. Maybe they thought they'd come back later and glass those up, but anyway, we decided to go ahead and tear out this whole doubling up plate, if you could call it that, and just expose the crack. The same thing. We think that it's probably glassed underneath it, same like that, but better just to get rid of it now and not have to deal with it later, because we will have to deal with it later regardless once we put the new bulwarks on.
Hard to explain the construction here.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's similar to the deck.
Yep.
Layer 5/8 and layer 3/4 with a couple of matting in between.
It's a mess. So yeah, these will probably have to come out too, which is weird. You know, I don't know, like, it's hard to tell how they actually match these in. Probably just cut them out and be done with it, huh?
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure that, yeah, it's going to be tucking under there or something too.
Mm-hmm.
That's really good to pry on either. As we thought, there's a lot of water coming down these old cap rails, and that's where these drips are coming from. We should be able to get it cleaned up and ground back anytime, even if it's wet out. And then, yeah, get a good day, we'll dry it out good and slap some putty in there, and
It will be happy.
up.
We'll be happy.
Fine. Should take care of the leaks down below at that point.
This brace decided it's time for it to go. Figure this plywood ran all the way to the outside of this, can feel like a lump over here, so decided just to make it easy on ourselves and cut it out.
And what kind of secrets have we uncovered? Well, Yep, good call. There it is. Suppose we should have done that first.
Yeah, just a chunk of 2x4 by the looks of it with a little notch in it. Yeah.
I'd trim that across the deck.
Now we can access over here and get a wedge behind it. Make it easy. Cut out the rest of this here first. It's so ugly.
Yeah, well, looks like they got some Bondo in there. Bondo's always good. Good strong stuff. A little more debris.
Yep.
Pretty much at the end of that though, thankfully.
Slice it along the corner there.
That or a grinder?
Yeah, just fine.
Our blades are kind of hammered, but they do the trick still.
Yep.
I hate to buy new ones for demo work. Things aren't exactly cheap in this town. And we don't have Home Depots or Harbor Freights or any of that stuff to run down to.
Doing the old tag team over here. It's exhausting beating old rotten wood out of here. Especially when it's stuck good.
Yeah. Uncomfortable position.
So we are being careful not to do any damage to our bulwarks here. Rather not make damage that we have to repair. So
yeah,
took some shallow cuts with the skill saw, relief cuts.
Should bust out our corded one, but I guess we're all right here. It's a pretty crummy saw on it. Seen some nails already.
Yeah, the blade. I like that.
Satisfying.
Yeah. Blackwood. This will be good to get out of the way
Yeah.
for later.
Stuff we'll be dealing with before long at any rate, huh? We plan on putting side stays to the mast similar to what we did on the fishtail, and then we'll just get rid of these big cables. All of that stuff is gonna get shortened up some. We'll keep it all in case we want to go back and do a troll fishery one day or something, but we don't need it up here, and it's just a lot of extra gear to keep track of, to keep in shape, cables and pulleys and shackles and stuff like that. So we'll just get rid of as much of that as we can and minimize that upkeep on that rig. So we'll be addressing this area anyways in order to put a good base and a good support system in place for those side stays. What we did on the fishtail is really clean, and it keeps this alleyway open. It opens it up, lets you be able to walk through there comfortably instead of having to squeeze through. I mean, we got to squeeze through on the fishtail, but at least you don't have to climb outside the rigging like a lot of guys do on seiners. That's what we're trying to avoid. That's getting down there. Looks like they did lay in a layer of mat here. Let's see how they did. We can get under it. So that's the original roving.
Oh, sorry guys, but nice try. Oh, gel coat.
Yep. See?
Cool.
Sweet.
Well, feels better. Feeling better about it already.
Yep. This is gonna take care of that leak. Not much of one, but you can just see where we got a few drips and a few runs, and that's where that water is coming from.
If this is dry right here, we'll be able to see all of the leakage that was coming right there, which I expect is a lot because it runs right down those stay lines and hits the plates that they're mounted to and runs right in. So
yeah,
when you're seeing all the leaks along here that are coming through the cap rail, you know that there's probably a few back there. We'll carry on.
Ooh, time for a break.